Holy crap. This is wild. We have a story that is up right now, and the headline is Nike won't say if it is funding child transgender athlete study, but evidence suggests it is. The study is being funded by Nike, according to the New York Times. Now, OutKick reached out to Nike and asked a pretty basic question. Are you paying to study minors and how they respond to hormone blockers and gender reassignment surgeries? And Nike says nothing. They won't respond to us at all. This is indefensible. And for everybody out there that was rightly outraged by the Bud Light can, what Nike is doing is 1,000,000,000% worse than anything Bud Light did. They aren't just paying a trans influencer. They're actually sterilizing, potentially, young children and paying for it to see how gender surgery impacts them athletically. Are you kidding me? This is downright evil. This is diabolical.
Clay Travis with some pointed words for Nike. And this story is one that, quite frankly, it's hard for me to wrap my head around. But you heard it there from Clay. The allegations that Nike is funding a study to see how minors respond to hormone blockers and gender reassignment surgery. The idea being, how can you level the playing field between biological males competing against biological females, which we have discussed a lot in modern times on this show, and we certainly see it all over social media and elsewhere. The story is starting to get attention around the social media world. Martina Navratilova, among those weighing in on this matter. Martina saying, "I'm still stunned by this. Nike is funding a study that disfigured young boys to understand if they can be physically impaired enough to compete with girls without significant, quote-unquote, retained male advantage. Why is a sneaker brand doing medical experiments on children?" Which is a really good question if this, in fact, is the case. This is, you're getting into Dr. Mengele shit here. If this is, in fact, true. For whatever criticisms that any of us ever have about Nike, my criticisms normally are just, you got a lot of shitty uniform ideas that we see popping up around Major League Baseball, the NFL. If this is, in fact, true, this is certainly going to change the way many of us view the Nike brand, and probably forever for that matter. Let's take a listen to what OutKick's own Riley Gaines had to say about this.
Okay, are we just going to disregard the fact that Nike is apparently funding a study that disfigures young boys to understand if they can be physically impaired enough to compete with girls without significant retained male advantage? And if you're confused what this means, it means Nike is funding a study to give children injectable hormones and puberty blockers. Yes, you heard that right. Nike, the shoe brand, the athletic wear brand, is doing medical experimentation on minors. I haven't bought a Nike product in years. I've known about their use of exploited workers, child labor in third world countries, how they went all in on Colin Kaepernick, how they used to model women's products, Dylan Mulvaney, in a woman's sports bra, right? So Nike was already not an option for me. But this experiment is like Nike's own Tuskegee experiment. I guess you can't know the effects of intentionally harming children without intentionally harming children. And from a shoe brand. Like, did Bud Light teach them nothing? So this is from a piece the New York Times did just this past week. You can pause to read it all. Basically, it's saying this scientist who identifies as trans himself, Joanna Harper, is leading a study, an ambitious study, of trans adolescents that measures before they begin hormone therapy and after they have begun to medically transition every 6 months for 5 years. You see it and highlighted right here. This study is being funded by Nike. And Nike has yet to answer to this. They have spent days now avoiding all reporters and journalists, asking them if this is true and why they're engaging in this. It'd be a shame if we tagged them in the comments and let them know that we're watching and that we want answers. So if this wasn't enough to put you off from buying Nike ever again, maybe the fact that they're investing money into seeing if you can medically abuse boys enough to make it fair for them to compete against girls is.
What's going on here is obviously you've got a wide section of society. It appears that most people on the left subscribe to this, or at least the most vocal people on the left subscribe to the idea that it's okay for children to take puberty blockers if they identify as the opposite sex, and that it's okay for gender reassignment surgeries to happen on minor children, provided that the child identifies as the opposite sex. Even though we live in a world where you can't get a tattoo until you're a certain age, you can't drive a car until you're a certain age, you can't buy this, you can't buy this, you can't go there. All kinds of things that we have in place because you're a child and because children aren't capable of making permanent decisions and understanding and being able to weigh the consequences of decisions that they make. We as adults historically put provisions into place so that children can't fuck things up for themselves beyond comprehension. Okay? Because they're kids and they're finding out and they need protection and they don't know things that adults know yet. Except for, I guess, when it comes down to whether you think that you're male or female. In which case, if a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old, or in some cases we see these families where parents are claiming that their toddlers are choosing a different gender. What are we doing here? I have my own study, and my study has been funded by common sense, and it is this: there's nothing you can do to make a man a woman. And I say this with absolute respect and sympathy for individuals who have gender dysphoria, which is a real condition and a rare condition. And for people who feel that they've been born in the wrong body, that can be a terrible experience for them. They suffer with that conflicted feeling that they have. And I feel for those people as a human being. I feel for them. And if someone with gender dysphoria wants to live their life as the opposite sex, I will use their pronoun. I will treat them with the same respect that I would treat anyone else with. But when you start getting into preying upon children on the widespread basis that this is starting to become, I think that it is a national crisis. And for a brand like Nike, if this is in fact true, for a brand like Nike to be pushing this, to be advancing this, it's ghastly, is what it is. Because the term retained male advantage, is there anything that we can do to erase your retained male advantage? At least they're recognizing that there is a male advantage. That's more than some will ever give you. There are plenty who are a part of this transgender surgery for children movement who would have you believe that this is just a fantasy. It's a figment of your imagination that biological males who become women have any advantage whatsoever over the females that they compete against. And it wouldn't be very hard at all to go back through news stories and social media and find plenty of examples of people espousing that viewpoint, as detached from reality as it is. But retained male advantage. Nike, allegedly, trying to do what they can to erase whatever advantages are left over from being male. Well, you tell me, what are you going to do? We just heard from Riley Gaines. You tell me, Leah Thomas, what are you going to do to take away just the hulking physical size advantage that this person has over biological women? Are you going to shrink her? Is that what you're going to do? How are you going to do? You're going to hit them with the shrink gun? How are you going to take somebody that was born with a male frame, male biology, and get rid of that advantage? And who are the poor children who, if this is in fact happening, who are the poor children who are the guinea pigs in this exercise? Ronnie, This one, if true, this takes any feelings that people had about Bud Light or any other brand that has embraced modern progressive thought on this issue and completely blows it out of the water, because this is something else entirely.
Ricky, so much of this doesn't make sense to me. It makes no sense to me why a publicly traded company that is in the business to make money would be doing something when they have a blueprint from Bud Light on basically corporate suicide.
Opening day in the Thursday Night Mowing League, my friends. Because that's what it is, a tradition unlike any other. I can almost hear the dulcet tones of Jim Nance as Joe Kinsey moves by at 4 miles an hour on whatever the finest riding mower is that we have in this country. I don't know. I'm not elite. I'm not someone who understands the intricacies that go in to mowing at the highest level. Just as I could not relate to Rory McIlroy and the shots that he hit. Well, I related to the one that he put in Rays Creek on 13. But I couldn't relate to some of the shots that he hit. I related to a couple of the putts that he hit, but I can't relate to the greatness that goes into being a champion in the Thursday Night Mowing League. Shout out to Dustin Fink, the 2024 TNML champion. There he is. Not only the 2024 champion, but a Hall of Famer as well, with the MVP award, with the championship. You go right into the Hall of Fame. There's no dicking around. It's just like Colorado getting your jersey retired. You win, and Joe Kinsey, he loads you right in there. So, look, and again, I want you to be aware, with a commissioner like Joe Kinsey, it's a league you can trust, my friends. You don't have to worry about any sort of sinister deals going on in the back rooms, anything happening that's not above board, because here are the league officials. We were lucky enough to obtain a photo of Thursday Night Mowing League officials behind closed doors discussing the new 2025 point system. So the integrity is assured when you have Arn Anderson, Lex Luger, Ric Flair, Tully Blanchard, and J.J. Dillon involved in the matter. And I don't know, it seems like everybody is getting in on this, even at the White House. Let's take a look. Donald Trump with folks out on the White House lawn. I don't know, maybe he's telling them how he wants everything manicured. Of course, OutKick is a favorite media outlet of the White House, as Clay Travis has said on more than one occasion. And perhaps Donald Trump, in anticipation of the Thursday Night Mowing League, maybe even wants to get involved. I don't know. We're being told that they're installing 200-foot flagpoles on either side of the White House that he's paying for personally. Have no idea what's going to go on those flags. We'll find out, I guess. When was the last time you think Donald Trump mowed a yard? You think he's ever? Here's what Grok thinks. Producer Tim asking Grok to let us know, what would it look like if President Trump mowed the White House lawn? And by God, there he is. Doesn't look very happy about it.
Does he have two right knees?
Well, I hope that's a knee. Ron, I don't know let me tell you something. It takes a little something extra to be the leader of the free world, and there we have it. I don't know what's going on with that steering wheel either. We are living in this brief 5-minute window where we're still smarter than AI, barely. So soak it in. Breathe it in, my friends, and enjoy this little slice of history before AI just absolutely takes over and dominates humanity, probably eventually leading to our oblivion. How's your Thursday? How's your Thursday morning going Guys, speaking of Donald Trump, he wants the Washington Redskins name back. The Redskins name, of course, a casualty of the modern era, and reasonable people can disagree on these things. Of course, the Cleveland Indians are now the Cleveland Guardians. The Washington Redskins became the Washington football team before being rebranded as the Washington Commanders. And we have seen a lot of other teams around the country whose mascots or nicknames celebrated Native American heritage, those things being changed in the era of increasing sensitivity, if you will. But Donald Trump, with some words on the topic, seems pretty clear that he would be in favor of the return of the Redskins nickname.
I think that's a positive thing. And when you go back to Indians, they poll this. They don't know why these names are being taken off. They're trying to, I think it's degrading to the Indian population, and it's a great population. And they like when they're, called by various names. Now, Washington, the Redskins, perhaps that's a little bit different, but I can tell you that I spoke to people of Indian heritage that love that name and they love that team, and I think it's I think it's a superior name to what they have right now. And it had heritage behind it. It had something special. But a lot of the names having to do with, different places, not just Indians, but I think it's they changed the name of the Cleveland Indians. Why would you take the name Indians off the Cleveland Indians? And now it's called the Cleveland something else.
Guardians.
Right? Guardians. It just doesn't make sense to me. So we're about bringing common sense back to this country.
So there you have it, the president's words on this topic. I've always been of the opinion that it's for Native Americans to decide whether or not they're offended by these things. I think as what has happened a lot in our culture over the past few years is it's been, white liberals deciding. A lot of really concerned, highly educated white liberals who have decided that, anything that could be perceived in any sort of negative way must immediately be remedied. I'm not going to sit here as a white guy and tell a Native American how they should feel about any team nickname. Obviously, here in Chicago, the Chicago Blackhawks, I don't think anybody has a problem with that. The Kansas City Chiefs seem to be doing just fine. The Atlanta Braves seem to be doing just fine. The Indians and Redskins were viewed differently, and I understand why. The Indians, you're talking about a race. Historically, the four races, as people once defined it in our society, were white, black, Asian, and Native American. So people have said before, well, would you have a team that was named the Caucasians? And it's pretty laughable when you look at it like that. Redskins, well, depends on who's saying it, right? That term could be seen as a racial epithet, and I get that. However, on the other hand, if you look at the actual origination of the team names of the Redskins and the Indians, they were to honor Native Americans. However, the issue, as time has gone on, became complicated, and we're in murky waters. So, but take a look at this. We're talking about the draft tonight. Donald Trump, there are rumors, Tim, I'm being told, that Donald Trump could be drafted, and there we see him, the greatest in Washington history. Who would be among them? Sonny Jurgensen, John Riggins, Joe Theismann. Who are your favorite Washington Redskins of all time? Well, Donald Trump, I suppose. Always gloves got a hole in it there as well. I love the AI mistakes are just the best. That, I believe, is that his middle finger? Yeah, he's Michael Jackson situation happening right here in Washington with Donald Trump. I suppose that we should have to say, we don't want to get community noted, that this is just AI. Washington has not signed Donald Trump, in case anybody out there can't connect the dots. Sad day in Chicago yesterday, and a sad day for everybody that appreciates football or just who appreciates men's men. Steve Mongo McMichael finally passing away, succumbing ultimately in his battle with ALS. commonly known as Lou Gehrig's disease. Mongo, just 67 years of age, and as many of you know, he had been ravaged by this particularly cruel disease. And so Mongo being ushered into heaven by St. Peter, no doubt, yesterday, and fully in possession of his physical capabilities again. God bless Mongo. The guy's a Chicago institution. There's no doubt about it. I tweeted out a little sky point to him on Super 70s Sports yesterday, but there you see a little rendering of Mongo meeting Walter at the gates. But I just tweeted out Super Sky Point to Steve McMichael, a Chicago icon and a courageous SOB. Many are in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but only one of those men who is enshrined in Canton can say that he was also in the Four Horsemen back before they got involved in managing the Thursday Night Mowing League. A guy who was teammates with Walter Payton and Ric Flair. Now that's a legacy. St. Peter, throw up the four fingers, my friend, because Mongo is coming. And this guy had a larger than life personality. I can tell you with certainty how popular he is and has been and will forever remain in the city of Chicago. Partly for his exploits on the field, certainly being a key member of the 1985 world champion Chicago Bears. For those of us that enjoy some pro wrestling, we certainly do remember when he was the WCW United States champion and an integral part of the Four Horsemen of the late 1990s. I remember seeing him at Starrcade 96 in Nashville, Tennessee, as he was, pretty damn good in his role as a professional wrestler. He had a good run there. So Mongo, we're going to call you a two-sport athlete because I will consider professional wrestling to be a sport. But there's other things that we remember about Mongo, and one of my favorites and one that I have tweeted about is the night that Steve McMichael sang "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" at Wrigley Field during the 7th inning stretch, talked some shit about Angel Hernandez, and got himself tossed. It was a moment. Let's take a look.
And don't worry, I'll have some speaks with that home plate umpire after the game. Ooh. Security's up here asking me to leave. I don't know what I did.
It may be a very brief visit.
It's hard to kick dirt on the ump from way up here, baby. I don't know how I got kicked out.
Wow.
You got tossed for doing the 7th inning stretch and providing a little bit of commentary on the quality of the umpiring. But Mongo, as you often were, you were fucking right. Angel Hernandez was the worst umpire in the major leagues for a lengthy period of time before he finally retired. So he had it coming. So, Mongo, hat tip to you from everybody in the city of Chicago and everybody who just loves great football. You will be missed, my friend. Sky Point to the great Steve Mongo McMichael. And let me now bring into the program the international streaming star who joins me from Nashville, Tennessee. He is, of course, Ronnie T-Shirts. And Ronnie, I'll start with Steve McMichael. I know that, you're not from Chicago, and so you don't really know what he means to this town, but you do remember the 1985 Chicago Bears, as all of us of a certain age do, and he was just a great player on what I would consider to be maybe the greatest defense that we've ever seen in the history of football.
Absolutely, man. Like you said, larger than life. I mean, to take the NFL career and then parlay it into being a big time professional wrestler. I'll tell you what, man, just reading this, I was reading a little bit of his bio. Man, Ricky, I hate to be a downer, but it's just like, man, sometimes life comes at you so fast. I was reading, he was still coaching football as recent ago as 2013. And, then he was diagnosed a few years later with ALS. Like, man, just it's crazy how life comes at you fast sometimes.
Well, it's crazy for me. I look at it and I think he's 67 years old, and I'm like, oh man, that's too young.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm old enough now that I realize 67. I'm hoping, you know, praying that I can, you know, have some decent longevity, because the older that we get, we start to stop and think, okay, you know, you think of it like a golf course, right? If the average man lives to be about 75,
Yeah,
you know, okay.
Please don't do this.
Ron, I
think I'm on
you're
14.
about to put one in the Rays Creek
Yeah,
of life.
I think I'm on 4.
Here.
Yeah.
But no, it does. Yeah, it's like in Spinal Tap when they were standing over Elvis's grave singing Heartbreak Hotel. And it was just like a little too much bloody perspective on life sometimes. Deion Sanders, Ronnie, is back in the news. Has he ever left the news? Is he back in the news, or does he just stay in the news constantly?
Yes.
It's one or the other.
Yeah, I agree.
Right,
he's
he's
always
back
in the news.
Yeah, he's perpetually in the news. We'll see what happens. I'm sure after tonight's draft, he will be in the news in a different way, because we'll know where Shedeur is playing, and we'll be discussing that. But Deion is ripping the NFL draft criticism that is out there. You know, yesterday on the program, we cited an unnamed NFL assistant coach who pretty much just threw Shedeur under the bus and backed over him, saying that he was a bad teammate. He blamed his teammates. It was the worst interview that he had ever seen. He wasn't even that good of a player. And Jim Everett on the program yesterday said, well, now wait a minute, this could be gamesmanship. Teams will try to muddy the waters a little bit, get a report out there. If you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, now we don't know that the Steelers did this. They may not have done this, but I can see where the incentive would be. You're sitting at 21. Shedeur Sanders' draft stock is maybe getting a little soft. We've been hearing it for weeks now. Is it possible that if you just get a little more negativity out there in the air, Ron, that he might just fall into their laps all the way down at what at one time would have been considered, I think, an unthinkably low position, because it hasn't been that long ago that we were talking about he might have had a chance to be the number 1 pick in the draft.
Yeah, I don't know if I feel like the NFL GMs and the people in charge of drafting, I think they're smarter than that. Like, I don't think that they're going to get duped by, you know, some ruse that, let's just say it's the Steelers. We don't know if it is, but let's just say it is. Like, the Steelers are like, oh, we're going to muddy the waters and now nobody's going to draft him. I think the NFL is too smart for that, but who knows, Ricky? I still stand by what I said the other day. The best quarterback in this draft will not be drafted in the first round. We will talk about this in, I don't know, next season or next year, but I really think that that's how this is going to play out.
That's a clip and save there from Ronnie T-shirts. Deion saying this is venomous. It's to the point where it ain't even cute no more. It's so predictable. I'm flipping the channel today, listening. Jackson Dart is special. Shedeur Sanders ain't. Y'all, come on. Stop. Hammer time. No, that was Deion 30.
Pretty good.
30 plus years ago. Remember when he was hanging
Too legit to quit?
Hammer?
Yeah, too legit to quit.
Yeah, they were bros back in the day. Look, I remember when Baker Mayfield went first, and I think Lamar Jackson was the last pick of the first round. If I'm not mistaken, he went 32nd. I remember tweeting that night, you know, my hot take was the last pick of the first round is going to have a better career than the first pick. And while Baker has, you know, found it, you know, he's a useful, above average NFL.
Yeah, he's not Lamar
right
Jackson.
He's not Lamar Jackson. So, and you know, and again, Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant. Tom Brady was a 6th round pick. Joe Montana was a 3rd round pick. We spend so much time hyper focusing on the new toys. And it's always, you know, 2, 3, 4 quarterbacks that everybody is enamored with. It's seemingly every year with the NFL draft. It is easy to forget that sometimes, look, if Jackson Dart, I don't have a dog in this hunt. I haven't seen Jackson Dart enough to have an opinion on whether or not I think he could be better than Shedeur Sanders. But the reality is, in basically every draft, there are quarterbacks who are taken later who end up having better careers than quarterbacks who are taken
And
early.
there's
It is not something
there's a good
that
reason.
is shocking at all.
And there's a good reason, right? Like the Tennessee Titans are garbage, and so that's what Cam Ward is going to go play with. And if Shedeur goes to the Steelers, he is in a considerably better situation for career growth. Like he's not going to have to just be running around like a chicken with his head cut off. So and that even goes for somebody drafted in the third round or the fourth round. Like they're most likely going to go to a team that's really good and, maybe sit for a year or two. And then the next thing you know, they're a top quarterback. It'd be Bo Nix. Bo Nix was
Jordan Love.
Yeah. Bo Nix was picked by yeah.
Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
There are a lot of guys in the history of the league who have
look at last year, right? Look at last year. Bo Nix went to a good Denver team, and he was the second best quarterback in that draft right now.
Well, don't get crazy. I wouldn't trade Caleb Williams for him.
We'll see. I mean, I think
he might not turn out to be.
Yeah. I think I should. Okay, you're correct. He's second best. He was the second best quarterback last year. He was second best quarterback last year. I do think Caleb has a good chance with this new coaching regime. I think that you guys might have turned a corner into not doing things really dumb all the time.
Caleb had a deceptively respectable year for what he was dealing with. He got sacked 69 times, something like that. He led the NFL in being sacked. The offensive line was porous. Caleb held onto the ball too long, which was the same problem that Justin Fields had a lot of the time. But 20 touchdown passes and only 6 interceptions. I think he only had like 2 interceptions in his last 13 or 14 games. So as rough as the year was in some respects, I saw some glimpses from Caleb Williams that indicate to me that if he gets better pieces around him, he's got a shot to be special.
Hey, OutKick fans on YouTube, if you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button and make your way over to OutKick.com where you can watch the full episode.